Hello and welcome to TCC Roundtable, Episode-01. The idea of this event, this discussion, is to bring 4 or 5 authors together, authors from different genres who have written books in different styles and who have written books at maybe at different periods of time in the past 1 year or 2 years. And they've released their books in the past 1 year, and the books have done well and have gotten a good readership. So the uh, reason for doing this is to get more and more people acquainted with their work, with their thought process, how they approach writing, and how they eventually write and publish their books. So, for the first episode, we have Kumar Kinshuk. He's the author of Darling, You're Obsessed. Dr. Ashish Rastogi. He's the author of The 5 Day Plan. Mr. Ajay Chowdhary. He's the author of Hi Maggie. Arthinkal, who's the author of A Fisherman's Dream, and Ravishankar Avadhanam, who's the author of the recently released Haasyaavadhanam. Uh, good evening and good morning, sir. Welcome to TCC Roundtable, Episode-01. So I will start by learning a little bit about our books. We'll start with Kinshuk. If you could just give an elevator pitch about your book and what it's about.
Hi, thanks, Niladri. Thanks for having me here on this panel today. It's a Sunday evening, extremely pumped up for that because Monday is a holiday this time in India. Yeah, so the latest book that I have released is Darling, You're Obsessed, which is basically a romantic suspense thriller. And it's more of young adult romantic suspense thriller. And it has huge thrilling element apart from typical romance that we see in the Indian movies or books, apart from which the book actually turns and twists. It takes you various locations and various paths while working through, while there are the inspector who really wants to untangle a particular case, and he gets completely tangled into the entire web himself. And we show how an inspector could also be very vulnerable to what is happening around him and his own past and his background, how it affects his own decision making while trying and solving a particular case. So I am typically a crime author. So I have done mostly mysteries and thrillers in the past. I have done 4 books in a series called the Kanke Killing series, where basically we had 2 Indian Girls, which was an international bestseller. And we had Ritualistic Murder, which is a national bestseller. Those 4 books are there. Apart from that, I did also something for kids. So that was Baryatu Tales with 23 short stories in the ghosts and thieves and all of that, that genre, 1970s and early 80s India, when you did not have basically the gadgets of today. So how kids in a joint family would work and play. So it was that. Darling, You're Obsessed, slightly different. And now I'm working on a historical fiction novel, which is already in publication. January is what we look at releasing it. And it's gone into a second round of developmental editing right now. That's about it. Thank you, Niladri.
We'll come to Ashish sir from there. Ashish sir, a little bit about your book. Sir, you're not audible.
So I publish, thanks Niladri, and good evening to everyone. So I published 4 books as of now. The latest one is the 5-Day Plan. I would say I'm in a romance phase of my writing at present because I started off with a mystery thriller. And most of my books have a medical professional as a main protagonist, and so is the 5-Day Plan. But this is a romantic comedy, and you have this Indian doctor who has migrated to London. He's an orthopedician, and you would expect an orthopedician to be, not so clumsy, not so klutzy. And this person, for some other reason, keeps meeting the love interest, and in most of these meetings, they end up with some or the other accident happening. And that's where the story begins. And so it's a series of, I would say, meetings that happen, and they become enemies in that. Ultimately, the story takes you how that turns from an enemies to lovers plot and how the story ends. And there is a whole set of side characters from the love interest family side are uh, equally, I would say, quirky and funny, and how they work to bring these two people together to remove their differences and help them see each other. So that's about the 5 day plan. I think, yeah.
Wonderful, sir. Wonderful. Keeping with the theme of love, we'll go to Mr. Ajay Chowdhary here. Ajay sir, because you have once written a romantic novel, so we'll just keep
Yeah.
the flow forward. A little bit about your book.
Yeah. Hi, Niladri. Good evening, everyone. Good morning to the one who is outside India. I'll start with Hi, Maggie. This was my romantic. This is a romantic novel. Generally, I write romance fiction only. This book is like a narrative memoir by a protagonist, Raj, which take you back in the sands of time and tell you in the penitentiary of love. Basically, uh, it's a story of four friends who gets old together, and now they are narrating their love stories, taking you back in the sands of time. And basically, the story, Hi Maggie, the girl is like, sees a girl who is infected with ADHD disease, and she tends to forget things so fast. So here, the protagonist falls in love with that girl, and the story like unfolds with like other friends, how their love stories take a different route, and they finally end on a happy note. This is my fifth book as an author, and earlier four books. I started with a poem book, and then I wrote two Hindi novels. After that, I wrote a book. It is not a novel. It is basically a different book, that is Love Why Marry. So it is a different subject. And this fifth book, Hi Maggie, and sixth one I've written is like a steamy romance and a murder mystery. It is a different genre I've written for the first time. I don't know how it will do, but I've given the best of my work to that book. It has gone for editing. So hope to get the book released soon, maybe by end December, and so this is all from me.
Cool, sir. I'm really looking forward to the next book that you write.
Yeah.
Okay, now I will go to Jordan. Arthinkal. Arthinkal is a pseudonym for Jordan. His name is Jordan. He writes with the name Arthinkal. So
Yeah,
please.
hi Niladri. Hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me over here. It's an honor. Yeah, Arthinkal is basically my family name, and I just wanted to use it because first of all, I was kind of embarrassed to use my own name, and I wanted something unique, as in just one name that can be like like, I think a brand is a very big word, but something that I can identify it, because I think Arthinkal is somewhat of a unique name. I haven't heard in many places. Jordan Anthony is quite unique. Sorry, quite common. So yeah, I stuck with Arthinkal. And so the book in question is my debut novel. The title is The Fisherman's Dream. That is basically about the concept I went with is a poor fisherman who's, it's a fictional village I created called Kurnool, in which the fisherman actually dreams of becoming an artist. Since he was a young boy, he was actually into drawing and painting, and he was quite good at it. But circumstances forced him to go into his family tradition, which his father was already, you know, it was his father's occupation already, which was being a fisherman. And it's not his thing. He doesn't like being a fisherman. He doesn't like the routine of being a fisherman. He just has this vague dream of being an artist. But coming from where he does, from the society he does, from the small village he does, the odds of him making it as an artist are as good as zero, right? And so I find that theme very interesting is because one, it kind of resonates with me. Although I don't come from as humble a background as he does, it's still, anyone who tries to chase his dream, whether like I want to become a full-time writer, someone else wants to become a full-time painter or something, the odds are always against you because it's such an unconventional path, right? And the reason I knew it would be a twist, realistic story because like one of our greatest artists, Indian artists, the great M.F. Hussain, he comes from very humble beginnings. And he has still, now we revere him and admire him. And he's almost unanimously regarded as our greatest artist, modern artist. So I know it is possible, and I felt that this would be a good way to address the story as in someone coming from a humble beginnings, facing challenges because it's never easy to accomplish your dream, no matter where you come from. Especially coming from his background, it seems almost impossible. So the story takes a journey of him, how he gets a chance encounter, with a well-to-do businessman in a market where he's selling his fish, and then the businessman supports him. It becomes almost like a patron to him and says, I see talent in you. I can sponsor your stay in Mumbai. I think you should come to Mumbai and try to make it as an artist. And then he takes the risk and he comes to Mumbai, and then the journey shows of his struggle in Mumbai because it's never as easy as it seems, no matter where you come from. The reality, sets in, and he comes to know that things are not just going to be handed out to him. He has to struggle. He has to make his own way in the world, and that's where the whole, I term it. I would put it in a genre, the literary genre, but at the same time, I think a good way to describe it would be a coming of age novel, wherein he actually realizes that the world is not how he thought it was from a small village. When he comes to Mumbai, it's a whole different world and kind of ruthless. And he's very naive in the way he thinks and the way he used to understand world. And so he develops as a human being as he's trying to make it as an artist. And yeah, that's the whole gist of the story. And there is a second part as well, which I have published already. I call it the Barefoot Artist, which continues the story from where I leave off in the first novel. And yeah, it's a potentially four novel series. I have almost completed the third novel. The fourth one I haven't. I have a vague idea of what to write, but I don't know where. I don't plot my novels. I just sit down and write, and hopefully it ends one day. So yeah, that is a little about my novel.
Great, great. And but just by hearing the title, The Barefoot Artist, one thinks of Hussain, because he used to go everywhere barefoot.
That,
He never used to wear
that is
shoes.
actually that is actually very spot on because I got the idea of that title as well as a development that my protagonist Aryan goes through from the great M.F. Hussain because when I used to watch his, I've seen his documentaries and I've read articles on him wherein many sources say that he used to roam around in Mumbai barefoot. I can't imagine
Mhm.
anyone roaming around in Mumbai barefoot, but he used to do that. I don't know how. I guess when you become that great of an artist, you get certain leeway to do
Yeah,
things. And yeah, so that's actually how I got it from. I got the title from. That's a good catch.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So finally, we come to Ravishankar sir. Ravishankar sir's book is called Haasyaavadhanam, and his surname is Avadhanam. But it's not an autobiography. There's a very interesting story behind it. So, sir, please, your book's description in a nutshell.
Yeah, thanks, Niladri, and hi, panel. I think we are meeting first time. Nice to see you all. Yeah, like Neil started, right? My book is called Haasyaavadhanam in a expanded way, in a way it has to be pronounced. Down south,
Okay.
we slightly pull it the ends, right? So it's called Haasyaavadhanam, which is Hasya means the laughter, the funny bone of every individual, and Avadhanam is a ancient art which keeps the audience binding with multitasking. It can be mathematics, it can be poetry, it can be anything which binds everyone, having a very high literal value, right? So I wish after seeing my book, people who are not really aware of this ancient art would quickly go and check on the wiki and see that I think my wish is fulfilled. That's exactly I wrote in my cover page, I guess. So I hail from down south, Andhra Pradesh. I was raised in Hyderabad, and last I think 25 plus years I'm overseas. Spent about 16, 17 years in Asia Pacific region, and last about 8 to 9 years I've been here in US. With a disclaimer, I would start briefing about my book. I'm a debutant, so I can see everyone here is well deserved to rag me as a junior, but this is my first book I came up with. I've been writing the genres which our panel touched. but it never. I would always say potential energy converting into kinetic energy. It never happened, but that happened to my first book, which is Haasyaavadhanam. It is a satirical book with 200 caricatures with satires, and it covers any genre we spoke just now. It has romance, it has love, it has lust, it has sarcasm in politics. It touched Hollywood, Bollywood. So that is where I call it as uh, 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 a factor, or a thread binds everyone, because every individual has their own interest, right? Somebody is interested in politics, somebody is interested in a love theme or a horror genre, or so on and so forth. So this book combines most of these genres, but I would say this is more a caricatural work and a satire, which is related to that. So I would always call this kind of genre and this kind of literature is a knife. It's a double-edged sword, right? You need to maintain the drawings as well as keep the concept crisp and clear, like a trailer and an ad, right? We can't really elaborate there. However, I have the other side of writer as well. I'm also coming up with few genres, which is like the panel briefed. My next something in development is called working title, I would say, is called Six Bullets, and this is like it's not typically a horror genre or a thriller, but it combines most of the things. But I try to maintain the theme of suspense and thriller. So that's the book which is in production, production in the sense from the writer development stage. And Haasyaavadhanam, a theme I started so it can go as well as my witty bone is alive. As long as I have my teeth, I can smile, and as well as I have my eyes, I can see. So this book should continue. So volume 2 is ready. We are just waiting for volume 1 to take a good spread in the market, and then we'll come up with volume 2 as well. Typically, this book was made for my local language called Telugu. I started with that. So the histrionics are very apt to that language, but because of the reach and the advice of the publishers and the marketing people who are working on that, we released that first in English. Because of the audience should be widespread and broad, and this is typically for Indian audience, where they miss the histrionics and the language, but still they have that DNA running up and running. So which I should say, including my kids and the friends whom I see often, they have that Indian roots, but they're confused somewhere. So this book is typically made for that. We released in English first. Pretty soon Telugu will come up, and then volume 2. So I would say for Haasyaavadhanam, 4 books as a series is already in pipeline, and the next as a short story novel, my working title I already told that would be more a suspense and a thriller genre. Thank you, guys.
Fantastic. I just realized that I didn't give any introduction of myself at all. So, after all of you are done, I'll just give a quick introduction of myself. My name is Niladri Shekhar Mitra. I have written 6 books. My main book, as you can see, is Letters of Nine. It's about a writer who's going through a writer's block, but he's to write a novel because his girlfriend is pregnant and he needs the money. So he's suffering through a writer's block. He's not getting ideas. So he starts getting letters from an unknown source, an anonymous source. That person is a serial killer. And she says, it's a woman. She says that I've killed 9 people. I'm going to send you 9 letters. And in that, I'll chronicle all my murders in my life. And then you can fictionalize that as a book and sell it on your own. I won't turn up for credit. But as the letters keep on coming, he sort of realizes that the woman or this person might be known to him. So that's Letters of Nine in a nutshell. Okay.
I know, Neil, you kept this for last so that you can, give the best description, and you did so.
No, it's not. I mean, all of us have see, that's the point of this, right? We have all written books in very different genres. Like your book is in comedy, Arthinkal's book is in literary fiction. Ashish sir and Ajay Chowdhary are in romance, although Ashish sir is also gay romance. So again, the LGBTQ factor comes in. And then Kinshuk's book is crime thriller. So it's all in different genres, I think. And that's also something that's I've been telling people for the last 5 years, that authors are not in competition with each other because there is a readership for every genre that you write in.
Right.
But also there's something that I mentioned. I really want an opinion of you guys. That what you think. That I think Ravishankar sir also mentioned that he's writing a book in a different genre, and Kinshuk has written a book in a different genre. Ashish sir has. How important do you think it's for authors to diversify, to write in sometimes, not always, maybe they can stick to a single genre most of the times, but sometimes how important is it for them to diversify?
Yeah, if I can take this first.
Huh.
I always feel that the life of author is creativity, right? The moment creativity ends, right, he probably lose the title of author. I mean, that's always I strongly believe. And there are no limits to the creativity. You start with one genre, you can end up into the other genre as a next book, or in the same book, some people can bring up many genres as well, right? That's how these short stories came into existence, right? I heard one of the author panel wrote a short story book, which is 12 series, 12 stories in that book. So there is no such boundary for creativity for any author, is what I always feel. It's sometimes we say, right, brain has two sides, left and right, and the best utilization is how do you integrate both, right? You need to write as well as create, and you create and then transform to the writing side. So that integration is important, and I think the best test for author, whether it's a best-selling novel or a best selling a blog, I would say, how did they bind the audience? Genre is not important. And the moment author is feeling that I'm getting stuck into one framework, right? Now, I mean, if you ask me, Agatha Christie is branded on something, right? It is not because she has not tried something else, but how best the work has gone to the readers, and that's what they remember. So keep trying, keep experimenting is always I believed, and I practice as well as I preach. So that way, I strongly feel every author should have creativity and should go for different genres. That's my opinion.
I'll put in my opinion. Since I have written a different genre this time, actually you have a forte. It's not that author cannot write different zones, but you have a forte. Yes, it's like romance is my forte. So even if I am writing a murder mystery thriller, if I am writing, romance is something which will come naturally in my writings. So it is like your natural instinct will always work apart from whatever different genre you are writing. So it's like combination of different, as you are saying. So you can always combine different genre in one book. But what happens is, like readers, they, like you mentioned the example of Agatha Christie. She was known for her mystery. So even if she would have tried something else, readers would have not accepted that. Acceptability of readers is very important because they look Agatha Christie as a mystery writers. Like there, if you see, there are other mystery writers also, but this is like even readers, if you write a particular genre, reader tend to expect that they will get this from you. So
Correct.
So that mix of that genres, if you can mix and match that well, if you can blend the combination of two different zones well, I think readers might accept it. This is my opinion, actually.
That's the reason why my Haasyaavadhanam, I said, right,
Yeah.
you have all genres. Let me start because that's my first one. So I feel my forte can be writing, and compared to my caricatures, my writing is better, on a pan if I weigh myself. So I thought, okay, let's bring all the genres and bring as many audience as readers as possible, right? Yeah, you're right. I agree.
You don't get single out with one genre. When in your first book, when you mix so many zones, you don't get single out, actually.
It's an interesting thing that Ajay sir mentioned about Agatha Christie, the readers not accepting Agatha Christie if she had written some other genre. But there is something that I think a lot of people don't know, that Agatha Christie did write a bunch of romance novels under a pseudonym. So Yeah, so she wrote many romance novels under a pseudonym, and I forgot what the exact name was. So she didn't dilute her main readership base, and here she branched out. So
Yep.
again, that again brings me to the question, that whether if you're trying out a different genre, suppose like Ashish, he started off with a thriller book, and then he sort of switched to romance. Are you alienating your readership? Like suppose I've made a readership, right? And let the readership base be 10 people or even 50 readers, doesn't matter. Are you alienating them, or is there a chance of alienating your readership?
Yeah, so Niladri, I would say, there are two parts to this. One is the creative part, which, like the Ravi said, and which, like Ajay said, that you have some strengths, you have some interests, and like in my case, it's more about what ideas come up and what ideas engage me to write a full-length novel. So that's the creative part, and that creativity you cannot confine into boxes. You cannot say if an idea comes which is a thriller and you will say no, I'll write only romance because that is what I've been writing. The other part is the commercial part, the marketing part, the branding part that you have as an author, and there are both sides of arguments for this. There are well-known authors that have written in multiple genres and they have succeeded. There are well-known authors who have succeeded in one genre but not succeeded in others. And then there are others who are very strongly opinionated about sticking to one genre because that's the brand that they have built, the readership they have built. And like you mentioned, there are n number of examples where people use different pen names uh, to write in different genres. But I think as a creative person, I would not like I said, I would not like to limit myself into boxes. It's all about ideas that come and ideas that flow. Writing a novel is not easy. Putting down those 60,000 to 1 lakh words in a story and getting that character development, doing the arc development, it's not an easy task unless you are invested in it yourself. So I would say if it's a new author, obviously there's a phase of exploration, and once you, I would say, once you settle into a genre, then it's up to you. Uh, Continue in that genre. If you're getting success, if some other idea comes up, you can explore that idea. Don't restrict yourself into boxes. That's my thought about it.
Yeah. So for a actor, if you consider, let's take Bollywood. There is a superstar and there is a good actor, right? A good actor probably would have covered most of the genres. He would not stick. Maybe he's not a superstar, but I would say he would be the busiest star, or he's the most favorite to everyone. Like who has done a character actor in a movie and later he switches to a comedy role or a serious role as a villain role. But unfortunately, superstars get into a framework, like Doctor said, in a box, right? So I would say keep trying different genres. You will be recognized on particular genre because you wrote it well. And can you repeat the same theme? Can you repeat the same success? We don't know, right? So when we start, I think our first accomplishment should be, like you said, sir, a minute back. We are investing ourselves in that. Let this product be out first, But while doing that, how much labor you'll go through. Oh, I'm bringing this genre here. I'm taking out the genre and fixing something else, so on and so forth. So I would say you had a valid point. I agree with you that we should not stuck in a box or a frame.
So I tend to agree with what the panel over here mostly agrees with, that there is a commercial aspect, which Dr. Ashish said, and there is also the creative aspect. So nowadays what is happening is, like in Ravi's city or in the state, US, most of the authors are extremely, they work in a very different manner. They have created pen names for the different genres that they write into. And that's mostly because of the marketing angle, the commercial angle, because they don't want to kind of confuse their readers. They want to, for example, if they're writing mystery, they'll write mystery in a particular name. They'll write maybe romance in some other name. And across the board, they're doing this also because it becomes easy for them to do, because they're all into email marketing in a very big way. And in emails, you need to have the emails of readers who are in that particular readers of that particular genre. And customers, they're very nuanced, very, very different in their approach to reading. So they only read particular kind of cozy mystery which has cats in it. So you have to actually hit right there, the right spot. Otherwise, you're out of that business and out of that game. But as an author, I believe I can't restrict myself so much. That becomes more of a businessman than an author. So, like I started from thrillers and mysteries. I've gone into short stories and a very different horror and other genre. I have got back into romantic suspense, getting now into historical fiction. And I think my readers will, over a period of time, realize that I am more of like, whatever I want to write, I'll write. It is for the different readers to pick up my different types of books as per their own convenience and comfort and their own reading habits. But I'll possibly write in very, very different genres. I'll continue to do so. And I'll create my base of readers also. It's only a question of time. We have to keep at it, and we need to keep writing those 60 to 80,000 words. Like Dr. Ashish said, we should be invested in it, and we should feel good about writing those novels. Yes.
Now, I'll tell you a very interesting story. Okay, it happened very early in my career, at least. I wrote a book on autumn leaves. That was the first ever novel that I wrote. It was back in 2011 that I wrote it. So I wrote the book, and it was like a drama. A bit of it was taken from my life and my friend's life, and then I imagined how we would be 30 years down the line, whatever. And it was not a well-written book. I was young and naive, and I just, I didn't know the how to go about writing a 300-page novel. But I wrote it nonetheless. So I wrote it, and because I'd written a novel, I was on top of the world, and I felt I'm entitled to be published, right? So I sent it out to all the publishers, Penguin, HarperCollins, the big ones. Okay. Nobody responded in 6 months. Only one publisher did. I wouldn't take the name of that publisher, big one, but they responded to me. And there was only one line in that. I can still quote the line. It said, "Thank you for your submission, but we do not think your manuscript is commercially viable." And I thought, no, how could they say that? How could they say it's not commercially viable? So I locked myself in my room for the next 2.5 days, and I came up with a novella called The Seductress. Now, by the name, you can understand it was very commercially viable, right? And then again, I sent it to all the publishers. And this time, nobody even bothered to reply. And then I realized you don't write for that. You write what you have inside you. You write because you want to tell a story. And then it's not because somebody said, what you have written? You have written a romance. Romance is not working. Write a horror. And you quickly think, oh, I need to write a horror. So I just go and write a horror. So very quickly I learned that you don't write what other people tell you to write. You write what your heart tells you to write. Yeah. And at that point, I don't think so. I think any of us don't think, when we started our books, I don't think any of us thought that whether it's going to be commercially viable or whether it's going to work or not in the market. I think we write because we want to tell a certain story or stories. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the main motive that we write.
Yep. You're right. You're on the same page. Yep.
Right. Also, there's one more thing. I've edited Kinshuk's book. I've edited Ashish sir's book, so I know these books very well. But in your writing process, how important do you think beta reading, editing, alpha reading, these things are? Because writing is a very lonely process. Unlike suppose you're making a movie, 100 people are involved in that. But when you're writing a book, it's only you. That is it. So before you send it out to the world, how important do you think to have a core team or core amount of people who look at your book from a very critical eye, editor, alpha reader, beta reader, and then how much of their suggestions do you incorporate?
I think it's very important. I think it's very, very important because it's a process, right? Any product is a process. I start with some idea and start writing. And by end of the day, maybe I cover a chapter, for example, just for the discussion sake, and sleep over it. And morning when I get up and see, I see it in a different way. Maybe not in totality, but I will think, okay, I think these parts I should have written well, or I should have done something else, right? So if a writer himself lives like he's the, I think it's a very awkward case where you have sex and labor yourself, right? You are conceiving the idea, you are bringing it out, you know the pain, and suddenly next day you see something different. So then you start correcting, or you start noting where there is a scope for a change, right? So important that alpha, beta, and whatever gamma, whatever categorizations are there. I would say that's very important. Even up to the editor level, I'm saying a writer goes through this process, and after that, again, if that is put to that category test, I think it is very important, very important. Finally, when you see a copy, you'll be still, as a good author, you'll not be happy on your work. Like you said, your first book, right? You would still say that, okay, I would have done better. That's a good, what you call a practice of an author. Like a good gymnast, raise the bar every day.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
Niladri, I'll tell you a very small. So it happened to me actually. So my first book, Two Indian Girls, when I released about 2.5 years ago, and that point in time I had done well in terms of the initial marketing push, and I got almost like 1,000 readers very quickly. That is when I started also. In that point in time, I had created an email list, and all these guys were on the list, and they started writing back to me, and they wrote that it looks more like a higher school novel. Doesn't look like a pure high end or maybe a very relevant murder mystery. So you might want to change the ending. You might want to kind of do some foreshadowing before the ending, because it looks like it's suddenly happened. So having taken the feedback from real readers after the book was out, I brought in a second edition of the book, completely changed the ending. Over the last, I think 50 odd pages, I changed, rewrote, and brought a second edition. So it does happen. It's that point in time, I was not aware of the beta readers and alpha readers and all of that. I had done it all myself, gone ahead, published it, figured there were issues in the book, rewrote it, republished it. But that gave me that input. Like you are saying, you've done the editing in the past for my book, and 2 books, in fact, you've done that line editing. Niladri, there again, I'm seeing, like, while we have gone for that particular book with a different publisher, and they have put a team of editors on that, initially developmental. And what I now realize, having written those 50,000 words earlier, they have actually counseled me, saying you were in a vacuum. The story is super perfect. The way it has come out, the characterization is very good, but you are in a vacuum. You have to show the context. You have to show also the what is happening around those 5 people or 4 people. So I am in the process of rewriting it, having gone through that 4 or 5 people, taken their inputs, rewriting it again, creating a bigger novel out of it, maybe a 70,000 odd words novel out of it. And because lit fiction, it works slightly differently. So there's so much to learn, actually.
Please tell me
And
that
beta readers definitely
please tell me that you're also reworking on the ending also.
Not necessarily, but yeah, foreshadowing is what I'm reworking on. Ending might be the same.
So they were not too far from what I had sort of told you when we had
foreshadowing. But because I had given you a very clear-cut line editing role, so you were very good with that. But now these people are actually taking it back towards the developmental editing.
Of course. And that's also for anybody listening to this, anybody. There is editing does not mean that the one editor would do everything. There are different different departments of editing as well. So someone can do copy editing and line editing. Someone does development and editing. I can personally do all of them, but it also depends what the author wants to do. So it doesn't mean that you give it to the editor and you forget everything. And I tell you something about Kinshuk and Ashish sir. In the editing process, their involvement is so much. I mean, the author needs to be involved. I have worked with authors who have given me the manuscript and have forgotten about it. It really does not work that way. Recently I edited a book and I gave them the suggestions, as I write in the comments, I gave them the comments, the editor notes and everything. And they sent it back to me saying, I have not done anything on it, almost nothing. Please incorporate the changes that you have suggested.
Understood. Yeah.
So I think going back to the different stages, I think for a new author, someone who's just begun writing, one realization should be there that this is your baby that you have created, and we always like our children. We love them, so we will ignore, we will not see the deficiencies or gaps that are there. And balancing this is the fact that uh, when we write something, when we create something, we are always scared of sharing it with others, because we are fearful of the judgment, we are fearful of how much they will change. And but I find that is very important. Like Ravi said, that you need to share it with others so that they can see it from a different eye. They see it from a different angle, and then they give you inputs. But what you need to do is you need to identify the people that will help you. I have
Yeah.
heard of stories, I have seen that there have been critic partners or beta readers or alpha readers or even editors, even developmental editors who have literally asked for major changes to the manuscript. And that has practically killed the story, or killed the I would say zest of the author to continue with that story. So it's very important to identify the people who are helpful in their suggestions. Whether you're going for alpha readers, these can be people in your friend circle, in your family, the alpha reader level, who will at least tell you that whether this character or whether the story is likable at least, or somebody would want to read it or not. And then you get into beta readers where you need to have very specific questions for them, what you want them to give their opinion on. You can't just send a manuscript to a beta reader and say, just tell me about this, how you find this. You have to tell them specific areas you want them to look. And when that feedback comes in, it's obviously up to you to use that or not use that. Similarly, with developmental edits, you need to have a relationship with the editor in a way that you want to use that, you think it's viable, you think it's going to enhance the story, or you want to go with what you have already written with that. So that sort of relationship needs to be built with any level of uh, people you are asking them to read your manuscript. That's, I think, very important.
This
Yeah,
is this
that's
is
a very good point he raised. Show to the right audience. That's so important, right? There is a possibility that your good work is going to be killed. That's a bigger horror story, not a suspense. Your all good work is going bad if somebody gives a bad comment. In my case, my first book, I'm so fortunate to share with one of the internationally acclaimed and very popular cartoonist, Dr. Jaydev. He happened to see my book. I was waiting to talk to him for last 35-40 years maybe, Neil. And he calls me, okay, and he says, Ravi, this is awesome work. That's the right audience, right? The way he encouraged me. Your drawings are immature or premature, I would say, because he's like 30, 40, 50 years experience in his work. And also he's a very famous in his work, all in together as a bundle. And that discussion is so helpful, to take care of myself in my second book. And that discussion actually moved into a different way where we started collaborating. I'm so fortunate, touch wood. Today we are working together. I mean, goosebumps when I say that. I'm working with him, and he's drawing to my satires. Is a dream come true, or a Charlie and a Chocolate Factory for me, right? But the moment I saw is so, like doctor said, it is extremely important to go to a right person for the review, or for your the development work or editing work. It's so important. Thank you.
But finding that right person is very important. You don't tend to find that right person very easily. All said and done, the people who are fortunate, they get the right person in the first instance. Otherwise, all people are not fortunate like you are.
I said touch wood, like finding the love you want, or just love whoever you find.
So that
I mean,
that's the problem is
yeah,
because see, as a author, you tend to write something. External review is important because you tend even there are two things. One is that alpha and beta reviews. Second is as an author, when you go ahead, you learn and you change according to whatever you learn from that. But that alpha and beta readers finding that proper person who can guide you. That yes,
yeah.
this is a small change. You don't change the entire story, but this is a small change. We can give a big impact. That thing is very important. So it's good that you got it.
Yeah, I
It
said
is,
touch wood twice, and it's fortunate. Yeah,
it
thank
is,
you.
because I started writing when I was 12, and growing up, it was a very lonely thing to do. Because forget writing, none of my friends were even readers, and my family wouldn't read really. When there was only a couple of readers in my family, my brother who's passed away, he was the one I think who used to give me a bit of feedback, and my mother a little bit, but nobody used to even read. So I couldn't go to a friend and say, Rita, I've written a short story, please have a look at it, because they wouldn't read. And even the first couple of girls I not the first, but the couple of girls I dated before the marriage, they also wouldn't read. So it was very lonely. It was only later when the internet really came in and I got into Twitter and social media. That is when I found people, like all of you. I found really a community of writers, and then I started being in writing communities and all that. That is when I started realizing that okay, there are people who are passionate about writing as much about writing as I am. Otherwise, I would feel that there is no one. It was a very lonely process, and that was the reason I started the community of TCC, just to give a kind of support and moral support to people who may not find writers around them in their immediate friend and family circle. Because one thing
So
we
that
know,
Definitely, because
our families don't buy our books. They expect it for free, or they don't. Jordan is laughing. He knows that.
They will not read it. That's the problem.
no,
Yeah,
I
they
had a
don't.
bigger problem. I would consider myself a novice with this thing because it's my first book that has come out. So my question would be to the panel. First of all, I would like to say that my beta readers were my cousins and a couple of my friends, and when all of them said, "Oh, it's a great book, it's a great book," that's when I grew suspicious. I don't. Sometimes I feel family and friends are not always the best people to give you feedback,
Yeah.
genuine feedback, right? So this is my question to the more experienced writers on the panel, like Kinshuk sir, Ashish sir, Ajay sir also. I think Ravi sir is also like me. This is our first book, right? So I would like to ask Ajay sir, Ashish sir, and Kinshuk sir that how do you all find unbiased, um, you know, readers who can give you honest opinion, who don't care about you personally. Like, your family will say, all right, it's a great book, you tried, it's a great attempt. Or your friends to encourage you will say, oh, it's a great thing, keep going, keep going. But how do you find genuine reviews who will actually tell you when your book is terrible or when your book is all right? How do you find those beta readers? Like, how do you organically get them? Can you give
So,
some advice on that?
so for me, the first thing that happened was I actually got it through some of the people who started writing back to me on emails. Or even some of them actually called me because my numbers are there on my website and everywhere. So they called me and told me that this is something I did not like. This is something I liked. Then I thought there is actually a group of people who felt the book was not doing well. And even more recently, I found a reader who had all 6 books of mine in her, and she shared that photograph with me. That in my shelf, you see all 6 books of yours are there. I have read all of them. I completely love it. So why don't you give me your 7th? I would want to pre-read it. I found a few things which I want to tell you before you go ahead and publish. So she became my official beta reader. Similar to that, like I had requested Niladri also to help finding 1 or 2 beta readers for the earlier work that I did, which was very profound in the way they came back to me saying whatever they wanted to say. And apart from that, in my office, I found a guy who was there more on the accounting side, but he was he's a reader who reads every evening and different types of works. He's a Bengali and like a real reader. So I now give all my books to him before publication. So you need to, over a period of time, assess people, figure out who is a real reader and whether he'll give you the unbiased opinion or not, and take it. And in my house, I'm extremely fortunate also to have my dad, who's basically a professor of English literature. So I do get a lot from him. a lot of stuff which I don't know. So I do. It's very happy situation. That's about it. You need to find those few people around you.
Or take professional help like Kinshuk took. In case if you are not able to find it immediately, at least you can take initial professional help so that they can help you out with your books.
Yes, yes.
I think, Jordan, one is, being part of author groups. It's very important because that is one pool where you can definitely request for people who are interested in your genre or who write in your genre, and if they would like to do a beta read for you. So one is that. And these groups you can find on, like we have TCC is there. On Goodreads, there are a lot of groups that have beta reading groups. You will find those. You can just search it out, and they are multi-genre or also specific to genre. And you have to just post your, I would say, a brief blurb of your book, and then you will get interest from various people, and you can send them the manuscript. Obviously, there is a risk. One risk that you have with such groups, or that your ideas or your manuscript can be, used or abused. I would say abused. I would say. So you have to be very careful when you are, selecting these people to give your manuscript, hand over your manuscript to them. Then I think social media is one place if you should be active, not only just to promote your book, but you should be also active to look out for such opportunities. And in fact, I have found many times where people create, these special groups to just critique each other's work. And there you can find people, like for my third book, Shy. That's where I found my major beta reader and mentor for that book. It was a writers cohort group. They had just created that group for this purpose only. People of 4 people, groups of 4 people with one person who was more, experienced and doing that. Then there are commercial people who do this for commercial purpose, beta reading. So again, you will find when you go to search for such people, but you have to be a little careful, a little, um, do your due diligence, I would say, when you're looking at searching for these beta readers.
Yeah, I think the social media game is something also, as you said, sir, I really need to work on. Niladri was my social media game was okay. I was like anti-social media. I was not on any platform whatsoever. And I made an Instagram profile, and Niladri messaged me one day and said, "Your Instagram profile is terrible. No one can even tell that you are a writer. There is no hint that you are a writer, is nowhere given. It's just random content of my website over there." So, yes, I think I completely agree that social media thing is I'm working on, and I will take a look at those groups as well. Because I really need, like, getting back to Niladri's question regarding the importance of an editor and beta reader and ARC readers or whatever they call it, I do believe it's very important as well to improve my writing. Only problem is so far for my first book, they've been like 8 to 10 people who I very personally know, and all of them said it's a good book. That's when I'm like, nah, I need to find a different way to go about this. So thank you so much for the advice. I appreciate it.
I'll support doctor's theory on social media is very important.
Yeah.
And you joining in a group is a different story. You create your own group. That's very important. And it happens over a period of time. When you start meeting like-minded people, out of 5 here, maybe 3 are like-minded for you, I suppose. You create a group for yourself. It is so important. I was mentioning this to Niladri some time back. Before I started this book into production level, I'm a very anti-social guy. I had a Facebook created ages back, I think 13, 14 years back. Hardly, there are some 1,000 requests, friend requests, whatever you call. I'm not into that lingo as well. But for this book, I created a page, and it's called Haasyaavadhanam. I just created for Telugu. Believe you me, this is maybe 3rd month. I already have about 5,500 followers.
Wow.
And important thing is 5,000 likes and 5,300 followers. Imagine. this is 3 to 4 months time frame. Now, whatever a political satire comes in, right? Whatever, not to again a line of a thin line we have to draw ourselves, not to be too sarcastic, not to be political, blah blah blah. We live in a unity and diversity kind of environment. With such a limitation and mine not being a professional writer or a professional cartoonist kind of a role, I was surprised to see how people are ready to follow you. Okay, one. Meanwhile, there is another group which has about 13 or 14,000 followers. Without my knowledge, they made me an admin. So I myself have about this 5.2 and that 14, close to 20K followers. That's good enough for me to test myself, right? Some like, somebody doesn't read, somebody says, hey, I like this. They say good night, good morning. So Jordan, create your own group and start getting into, again, social media is not for you, right? You should not feel shy. As a good writer, you'll always love to see your book spreading into many sects of the world, right? So improve your social media. That will definitely help. And I would say no dependency, right? You have your own group, you have created, and you have your own followers. So I totally agree with Doctor's point that social media might help.
I'm seeing a lot of authors have started broadcast channels on Instagram recently. I did not know much about it, but yesterday only I was wondering, what is it?
Very, very it's good that you brought this up. Yesterday only a team member told me that, we should start a broadcast channel. I'm like, what is it? Because WhatsApp, because you, as we know, the recipient needs to have your number saved to receive the message. He said, no, in Instagram. I see Instagram also started, but I look at it. I said, okay, you guys look at it. If you think that is viable enough, we'll definitely pursue it. I'm not resistant to change. Change is something that's always going to happen, right? And
change is the only constant.
Change is the only constant, exactly. So it's going to happen, I mean, there is an elephant in the room. We'll not address it today. We'll address it some other time, in some other show. So yeah. Very quickly, we are coming to the absolute end of the first episode of Roundtable. So very quickly, in one word, what's next? What's the next book? And just so Ravi sir doesn't accuse me of keeping myself for the last, I'm working on 2 books, although it's making it very, my editing things is making it very difficult for me to write a book. But I'm working on 2. I would have finished 1 book by now, but my laptop crashed and I lost half of that manuscript. So I'm rewriting it. So I'm working on 2 books. What about the rest? Very quickly.
Yes. So Niladri, 1 is already ready. You know about that book. But I need time to, obviously, at least some time to get the 5-day plan, on a certain platform before the audience. So I'm just waiting for 6 months to complete. That's the timeline I have given it. And then we move on to that book. And 5-day plan, one of the most common feedback that I have got is people want to hear about Elliot's story. There's a character in that, side character, the brother of the love interest in that, and people want to hear about that. And so this is an announcement, I think, first time I'm revealing it to anyone. Elliot's story is being written just now.
Okay, so spin-off.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Jordan, okay, I think you've already said you're working on the Fisherman series. And
yes.
So is Ravi sir. He's already told us what he's working on.
I've written Steely Romance this time.
Okay.
Oh.
Different zone, huh?
Cool. And Kinshuk?
I'm completing and redeveloping the political historical fiction of a very important era in Indian history.
Okay. Also, a very quick trivia question. All of us, I mean, not me, but apart from me, all of us here, I think we're in different cities, different parts of India, different parts of the world. But there's one common thing between all of you. Can anyone tell me what that is?
Passion and creativity.
Yes, apart from that.
We are all authors.
We are all authors.
Then there's one more thing. Okay.
You're writing multiple genres?
I'll just say all of you have been partnered by TCC in your promotions.
Yeah, I was telling
Oh,
we are all
nice.
TCC members.
Yes.
Yeah.
So all of you have taken marketing from us. Thank you very much for that. And so a very quick word on TCC would be really appreciated, sir.
Thank
By the
you.
way, Neil, I was talking about TCC when I said passion and creativity.
Okay. Ashish sir, Kinshuk, a very quick word about TCC. That would be really appreciated.
Yeah, so I think, like I mentioned in the discussion also, TCC is like having a family of writers and authors from different genres. And we have a lot of discussion. We have on various topics, current topics.
Lot of
We
disagreements
also
as
get
well.
a lot of help where we get stuck. There is satire, there is sarcasm, in the group. And I think the other thing that TCC helps is in the sense that there is both soft marketing and I would say hard marketing. Hard marketing, of course, you have to shell out some money to Niladri. And soft marketing is the camaraderie that you have with all writers and authors. So that's from my side.
So I have been a silent member mostly of the TCC group, but I do enjoy some of the goings on when you actually have time to read. But yeah, on the marketing stuff, I have to say that Darling You're Obsessed was marketed by TCC initially, and the initial 2 months were very difficult because the novel was put by Amazon into a gated category. And after a lot of fight with them, I got it out normally. But eventually, the thing has been working and it's been now selling pretty well. So it has become the #1 most wished and most gifted book on Amazon in the romantic action and adventure section. So thank you, Niladri and team, for that.
Yeah, and that is what I keep on saying. A book market, a book is not like a movie. They can come on Friday, it can stay for 7 days and go away. Sometimes what you market today, the results you see after 2 months, because somebody might have put your book on TBR, something like that. So again, congratulations. Yes, Ajay sir.
Yeah. I'll say only one word. With TCC, you put your heart and soul with TCC. So they are with you.
Thank you for the kind words. Thank you for coming, taking out that one precious hour of your time and joining us. I'll be very soon reading, sir, your book. I've read Hi Maggie and 5-Day Plan, Kinshuk's book and Jordan's book. So thank you again. And anybody who's watching this, I hope you have enjoyed our discussion here. As I said, it was not an interview. I had a lot of fun. I hope you had fun too. And please subscribe to our channel, The Creative Circle Official. All the details and links of all the books that you have spoken about would be in the description. So please go to Amazon, please buy the books, read the books. Most of these books are on Kindle Unlimited, so you can read them for free as well. Please subscribe to TCC again. Please comment, like, whatever. And Jordan would end us.
Yeah, end this is kind of a greedy ending. To be honest, you can edit this out in last 3 if you want. I just had one question I remembered right now. I wanted to ask Kinshuk sir regarding that. I'm being a little greedy. Apologize to everyone. Sir, you mentioned something about that you have an email list, right? And that is something I've been aiming to develop as well. And I think it's very important for as a self-published author to develop an email list. So can you give me some tips on how you go about it? Is it organic, like you have it behind your book and you get those readers in, or do you have a different way to go about it? Sorry, everyone, for delaying the end.
Niladri, very quickly, I'll just answer that in a minute. So basically, after the book, about the author section, you put in the barcode over there for people to actually go very easily into your email list. While I was using the list mostly, and what I've seen is rather than Indians, I have got almost like a 1,500 US citizens who are there on my list. I don't have too many Indians on the list. Indians, possibly, I don't know why they don't get into that. So there are two things that I definitely do. One is put a barcode for, obviously, for my website. There they can go see my books, which are at slightly lower cost than Amazon and Flipkart. Second, there's also a barcode for going to my email list, and they get a short story free over there. Third is there's a barcode also for the next book in the series. So it is an essential part of marketing now as per your book, because the book is in their hands. It's easier for them to do the barcode reading and immediately kind of get to the next book also. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Niladri, I think I didn't say this thank you so much for all your help. And I thank the entire team of TCC as well. I was completely lost. I still am kind of, but as Niladri knows, a couple of months back, I was way more lost than I am today. And my book has seen a lot more engagement and, reviews coming in because everything, I credit everything to TCC. So I didn't get to say that, and I'm saying it right now. Thank you so much for all your help.
Thank you.
And
Thank you,
thank you to
Jordan.
Thank
everyone
you.
on the call.
And thank you everyone for coming again. Tata, bye bye. And please do subscribe to the Creative Circle Official. Thank you and
Thank you.
adios.
Thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.